All right, I want to thank everybody for coming to this July 2nd, 2020 special meeting of the Forest Hills Board of Education. This serves as our call to order. Item 2.2, roll call, Ms. Cropper.
Mrs. Barber,
Here.
Ms. Joyce,
Here.
Dr. Rasmussen,
Here.
Mrs. Taylor,
Here.
Dr. Heitz.
Here. Please rise and join me and look at Scott's screen to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
All right, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Ms. Cropper?
Ms. Joyce,
Yes.
Mrs. Barber,
Yes.
Dr. Rasmussen,
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes.
Dr. Heitz.
Yes. All right, we'll go to item 4.1, discuss, consider, and a vote on a motion to retire the Anderson High School mascot. I want to thank, starting off, I would like to thank everyone who has participated to date in this process. We have received probably pushing 2,000 emails now over this. I say up to about 1,000. I think we all read those. The last couple hundred we're probably still a little bit behind on, but I do appreciate the community input through this process. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move to respectfully retire the Anderson High School logo without additional taxpayer money.
Can I get a second?
I will second that.
All right.
I'd like to make.
Oh.
Sorry. I'd like to make a motion to postpone the vote until the board can have an in-person meeting with public participation and comment.
Okay. The Robert's rules have us. We have to vote on one motion before we can make another motion.
Okay.
Okay. This is the time for discussion, and that to be fair, Patty, that would be a good time to discuss that. So, discussion. Dee Dee, would you like to start?
Yes, thank you. I want to first say thanks to everyone who sent us emails, both for and against, sharing your many wonderful, wonderful stories. I have not yet been able to read all the last 300, but I plan to do so. I believe years ago when a group of people decided to name the logo Redskins for Anderson High School did so because they felt it represented bravery, courage, and strength. And this was repeated time and time again in many of the emails I received. It was not meant to be offensive at all. But as we grow, learn, and educate ourselves, we change, and so do the times. It is my hope that the wounds will heal, divisiveness will end, and our great community will come together again as one.
Thank you, Dee Dee. You would like to discuss? I'm just going around the circle here, Leslie.
Yeah, I would just like to say that no matter what the outcome, I understand that people are going to be hurt. But as one parent wrote to us last night, as board members, you're entrusted to make decisions for all of the students in the district, including minorities. I've taken so many calls from people in the community and students and employees in our district in the last 48 hours that have thanked me for saying what they can't. Today I heard from my new buddy, Michael G. He's watching. Hi there. He's a Boy Scout. And he called today because he wanted to talk to me about how he, as a sixth grader, can help his community move forward. I have heard and talked to teachers who have felt convicted to speak out finally, freely and bravely. I realize that I present white, and but I am indeed a Latina woman from South Texas. And I know what I have seen. I know what my parents have seen. And I know what the families that I grew up with have seen. I lived in Mississippi for 3 years and saw so much pain. And if there's anything I can do to help that, I have to. I just have to. And we have heard those voices this week, well, for weeks now.
Thank you. Elizabeth, Patty, Elizabeth?
So we all know I'm a bit of a practical decision maker, and there's still a few questions that I have, and that I think that the community needs to understand that we've talked about before we would actually take any kind of action. So, Scott, would you mind talking a little bit about just the conversations you and I have had about what a process could look like? So, it's no secret we do not have extra money for this, and I alluded the other night to the fact that we could have private donations from citizens. This isn't a big donor that I know of, and that seems a little bit blind, to make this decision and blindly expect the money just to show up. So could you talk a little bit about, maybe how other communities have done this, because we've received tons of information from other districts who've done this, and I know you guys have done a little bit of homework. So could you speak to that for me, please?
Yes. When you and I last spoke on this, um, I had spent a little bit of time talking with Mr. Fellows over the last few weeks, and certainly Rob and I have not spent a tremendous amount of time on this issue because it is recent to our school district, given the national discourse at this particular time and events that have taken place. But nonetheless, in anticipation that the conversation would come up, in anticipation that potentially something could change in our school district, I felt it was appropriate to have some discussions to kind of set some groundwork to be able to respond. And so we have taken a look at schools not only in the state of Ohio, but across the nation. And there's a couple of things that we have found out. So I think what we have found out is that a process must occur that should be comprehensive. It should include timelines. It should include benchmarks. It should include stakeholder involvement, clear communication, very clear communication. And it should be inclusive of financial considerations related to something of this magnitude. So what I have talked about, what I've seen in other models, is that a steering committee has been developed. And that steering committee is generally comprised of the building's administration, athletic directors, assistant athletic directors, individuals who work with groups of students in the performing arts, because it's not just an athletic, but there are individuals who work with students who have leadership roles that would be part of a steering committee. Faculty are certainly involved in that. Honoring the past always includes an alumni component to any steering committee. Students in the school who are in the moment, who are living within their school and who have pride in their school, need to be involved in the participation. And not only senior students, but 9 through 12 students, so that we get a full complement of what children are thinking in grades 9 through 12. There, in most situations, because of the communication and because of the emotion wrapped around something like this, there is always communication. And in our district, that would be a communication coordinator who would be working with a committee if the board chose to go in a different direction. So we would have, that is recommended in these models. And oftentimes there's an ad hoc sort of committee where the central office is involved, administration is involved, not as a full participant in the process, but certainly overseeing the process and making sure that those communications and those decisions from committees are made known to everyone, because many of them have financial implications or potentially. And almost all the ones that we've talked about, and certainly I've talked about this with Rob, have a board member liaison, someone from the Board of Education who ultimately made a decision to make an adjustment that comes, and it is a committee, not of the board, but it is a committee where the board has a liaison that attends that because of the ability to maintain flexible with meeting dates, so forth and so on. So that's part of that. So if we were to move forward, and I have spoken with several administrators in our district recently about this, if we were going to move forward, we would recommend that the board president in that role appoint a board member liaison to oversee the aspects of the committee's work. I have on my sheet in yellow now highlighted, there needs to be the development of a district operated private donation fund to effort or to offset associated costs already part of the typical and or cyclical operation costs of the Anderson High School. And collections will be spent using a prioritized process facilitated by the building principal to address needs as soon as the 2021 school year. I'd like to go over that again. Development of a district operated private donation fund where people can spend donations to offset the associated costs of the typical things that would take place. And again, those collections, those dollars that came in would be spent using a prioritized process that would be facilitated by the building principal. And if something was to happen on a timeline starting as early as the upcoming school year, then the principal, the athletic director, the individuals who are working with other departments can prioritize what needs to be done with those funds. There needs to be respectful administrative-led assessment and removal of branding consistent with the board's decision. If the board was to make a change, there needs to be how we would remove certain things. The process to honor and preserve historical artifacts will become the responsibility of a subcommittee of the larger steering committee. So that honoring of the past and that recognition of the past and the pride and the accomplishment is part of our subcommittee organized to deal with that. A timeline for the total brand transition will become the responsibility of a subcommittee of the larger steering committee as well. And there were questions about COVID and if we come back next year and will we be remote? Will we, how will this work? So there needs to be a timeline to deal with those issues because we want to acknowledge the fact that we don't want students coming back to an empty slate. We're going to need to do something and we want to have them involved in that. So it should be noted that research-based, respectful, and effective brand transition models have been applied in other Ohio schools and across the country. And each subcommittee will be advised to seek examples of best practice models as they develop individual proposals should the board make this decision. And I have 5 subcommittee proposals or 5 subcommittees that across all of the studies that we've taken a look at, I shouldn't say studies, transitions that we've taken a look at, these seem to be the 5 most prominently visible committees to do this type of work. So there's a selection process committee, and that committee develops the logistical transition timeline and associated activities that are part of that. There's an honoring the past subcommittee, and that committee develops plans to ensure that accomplishments, honors, and historical significance of Anderson High School is respectfully retired as the process unfolds over time. There's a communication subcommittee charged with the development of clear internal and external engagement, as well as feedback and communication distribution. There is a branding subcommittee, that is the 4th one, to develop comprehensive planning to promote the new brand for Anderson High School's building, their students, faculty, and staff. And then there is always a fundraising subcommittee. And that committee is charged to develop plans to solicit private and or corporate funding to promote the new brand for Anderson High School. So selection, honoring the past, communication, branding, and fundraising. And therefore, should the board vote to make a change, I would respectfully request that the Board of Education authorize me to develop a superintendent principal steering committee charged to lead the transition process, using sort of the many things that we have learned from other school districts that have gone through a process similar to this.
Thank you. That addresses a lot. We've already had people reach out and offer to donate, offer to paint, offer to sew uniforms.
Any other discussion, Elizabeth? You're nodding. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I have some more comments, but I'll save them for later.
Okay, Patty?
No, you just need to let me know when I can do my subsidiary motion.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to discuss regarding the motion on the table?
No.
Okay. Oh. Leslie?
Thanks. I wish
Okay.
this had a raise your hand
That's
button.
fine. Yeah, usually you can, yeah, you're muted, but that's fine. Go ahead.
I just really want to reiterate the fact that we cannot, what Dee Dee said the other night, we have no business telling another culture what we think they should find offensive. That is not about political affiliation. That is not about anything other than human decency. And I just have to make that very clear.
Okay, I am about to call to question unless, Elizabeth, you would like to say something before the vote.
Are we going to make comments when we vote like we did last time?
Is that the pleasure of the board? Like to, okay. Then,
Yeah, then I've asked a lot of questions along the way since 2018, and I honestly feel like they've all been answered. So I'm comfortable.
okay, then I will call a question. Please call the roll.
Ms. Joyce, you're muted.
Yes.
Dr. Rasmussen,
With grace, we can learn and grow, and it's my sincere hope that this is a starting point for learning and growing our own racial consciousness and to elevate others. And I cast my vote to change the mascot, to retire it, to give a voice to those who fear using theirs. No matter the outcome, those of you out there, please know that no one has the right to diminish your experience. That's my vote.
Mrs. Barber,
I want to show everybody something. This is the 1998 Anderson High School yearbook. See the cover? The title, which I vividly remember choosing as managing editor, it's just a matter of pride. You can't make this up. Inside, it says, Redskin pride originates with its students. In all aspects of life here at AHS, it's just a matter of pride. I cannot help but find it so ironic that I'm sitting here today, because that's really what this issue is all about, pride. Today, part of our community is so proud of the Redskin name, and the other is not. We've been asked a lot why diversity and inclusion are in the spotlight today, with so many other pressing issues like state budget cuts and students going back to school. I am happy to clear that up right now. In public education, we look out for all students, all races, all religions, all socioeconomic backgrounds, and there's good reason for that. Children who don't feel safe or included cannot learn effectively. The truth is, our world is changing fast. We are not the same people who changed the mascot from a comet to a redskin all those years ago. Since 2000, we're more worldly. We've learned a lot. This friction that we all feel, it's because we're more diverse, but we are not necessarily more inclusive. Our people have changed and we need to adapt with them. Since 2018, I've read all the emails, thousands at this point. I've learned about Native American history. I've heard the opinions, ideas, points, and counterpoints on why we should change and should not change, why one way is right and the other is wrong. But there's only one fact I have found to be true. The redskin as a fixture in public education is distracting and divisive to two things that matter most: education and unity. The strong, proud image that for decades was a source of honor and pride does not represent us all anymore. In fact, it upsets a lot. Is that really what we want? Is that really who we are as a community? Real leaders don't do what everyone wants them to do. They do what's best. As a board member, I filter decisions through two questions. Number one, are we protecting public education? Number two, are we acting in the best interest of Forest Hills and Anderson Township? That filter makes this decision pretty easy. It is not in our best interest to fight these nasty battles every few years. Our community deserves better. It is not in our best interest for our students to lack a universally accepted mascot. Our children deserve better. This is not about erasing history, it's about writing the future. Retiring a jersey is an act of honor. It's for players who've served their teams well, people we want to remember and revere. It's a way of leaving a game with dignity and respect. That's what this is about. Not pride, not tradition, dignity and respect. Two things we need more of in this world, and two things we as leaders need to model for the next generation. So it's up to us as parents, grandparents, teachers, administrators, coaches to lead these students there. It's time to remove all distractions that cause division and work together to restore unity in this community, one hard decision at a time. In the coming months, these students need a voice. They deserve to be as proud of their traditions as we are of ours. They deserve to be united and not divided as they are today. And with that, I respectfully submit my vote to retire the Redskin name.
Mrs. Taylor?
Our priority should be getting over 7,300 students back into the classroom. And I moved here for the education. I'm doing my job as a board member with education in mind. And the education of all students. 100% agree with that. All students. Ultimately, I am a no, though, for three reasons. We are making this decision without a plan, without understanding the symbol we will be changing to, without understanding that the name change will actually fix all these injustices that we're discussing. Ultimately, without understanding the cost of making the change. If we vote to change the Redskin name at Anderson, the district is now financially obligated for those changes. Private funding is a great idea, but where is it? If it's not in hand or escrowed or in this new account that's going to offset the charges, which that's a whole nother thing about how do you manage that. If you don't have it, then it's out of our pocket. If it costs $1 million and the community raises $10,000, we are obligated for the remainder. The district is making itself obligated with this decision. Number two is priorities. Votes have consequences. The board majority decision to pass the teachers union raises will increase our spending $7.9 million over the next 3 years. That's 3.7 average percent increase over a 3-year period. As a school district, our spending is out of control, and I still do not see any meaningful direction in dealing with our finances. Third is, this is not the regular process, and I believe it's undemocratic and not the will of the majority of the residents. I'm against the method and the rushed nature that is being used to push this agenda without public input to a vote. I know some of you are passionate about this, and I respect their views, but if this was reversed, you would not like how this is happening. This issue will be voted on without public discussion, and emails are not public discussion. And finally, I have listened to all those emails to both sides. We seem to have very different opinions. If I disagree with changing the name, you're labeling me incorrectly as a racist. That's what people want to call me. I get it. But if I disagree, I'm not a racist, and I refuse to accept that. Everyone has a right not to be offended, but if I do not agree with your narrative, then I'm the problem. Some of those pushing for change embrace diversity, but are fundamentally intolerant, intent on stopping the American tradition of free speech. In conclusion, I am a no.
Dr. Heights?
All right, thank you, everybody. I want to address a couple things. One is I have had a lot of commentary over the past 2 days over board leadership and how president runs a meeting, especially in regards to the logo. This is my 5th year as board president, and out of the last 9. My philosophy and the philosophy of presidents before me is that president of a board is a leader among equals. I have no stronger voice or stronger opinion than any of my colleagues. My goal is to encourage, empower my board and my fellow colleagues to speak their mind. I'm actually encouraged at this meeting that everyone has done this in an excellent manner, and also to assure that processes go forward. My goal is not to censor any of you to speak your mind. I want you to. We have differing opinions on a lot of things. We have, as everyone here has mentioned, there are far more challenges that are coming ahead, some of which are coming ahead right now. That said, I do like to push some decorum, and I appreciate the fact that what I'm seeing today is more along the lines of what I'd like to see. So that does, and we are working on it. We are a new board, and we are just getting started with this. Now, for the Redskins, I don't have written comments. I'm just speaking from my heart. When this started about 4 weeks ago, I'll tell you, my first thought was, what am I going to do to keep the Redskins? What can I do to maintain the legacy and all that I was raised with, as far as being a proud part of one of our flagship schools of what I grew up in. I grew up going to Anderson games when I was 4 and 5 years old, and that was and that for that first part was I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how I could figure this out to make this so that it just got pushed farther down. Just get by this again. We got by it in 1999. We got by it in 2003. We got by it in 2018. For me, the reason for that, and to reiterate what Elizabeth said, and to what Patty said, the people that love their legacy, the people that love the fact that they're Redskin, and that is their history, that is what they believe in, that is their pride, are not racist. I firmly believe that. There are the thousands, generations that have been at Anderson High School are proud of where they came from. Not everyone, but a lot. And they have every right to be proud of that heritage, proud of what they did, proud of the school that they came from. It's a different time. It's a different time. For me, the decision came from, or my point of clarity came when I talked with the people on the ground, the Anderson administrators. I had a 3-hour meeting, and sitting down with the people that are in the school that we have tasked with the education of our kids. And what they told me, and these are people whose opinion I strongly admire and appreciate, They said that in today's Anderson, they have to have two different newsletters. One newsletter with the logo, one newsletter without the logo. And I am not casting aspersions on either side. People feel strongly about this. They feel strongly about it both sides. There are families that are strongly, and we've read them strongly and passionately against having Redskins as a mascot. And then there are families who are equally as passionate, multi-generational families that want that on there. They want that on there. It's important. So now we have our administrators walking a tightrope. They see when they see a kid at Kroger's, they see one of their athletes at Kroger's. Not only can they not sure if they can say "Go Skins," they have to look around to see if there's somebody else there. Okay, in the hallways, the same thing. Well, do I say it to this one? Do I not say it to this one? I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that one side's better than the other. They both feel strongly about it. But one thing I think we can all agree on is that it's divisive by definition. Now, I've read the emails. I get it. Everybody's divisive is because the other side doesn't believe what you do. I get it. If they just believe like I would, there'd be no division, and vice versa. I mean, that's the way life is, and that's the way people are. But the fact remains, they're divisive. And what I want for our flagship school that's named after the township we live in is I want my athletic director, I want my principal to stand up in a gym and put his hand up or her hand up and say, "Go whatever," and all the kids are behind it. And all the kids can participate. And there's no friction over a mascot. There is unity. There is not division. And that's one thing I got from the high school and from a couple generations of administrators at the high school, that it's becoming more divisive. We have enough issues. Lord knows we have enough issues with COVID and with trying to get our kids back in and doing all of this. We need something to unify. And I don't know that we're all going to get around a mascot to unify, but on the other hand, at least it's not divisive now. At least we have a commonality of purpose. Now, I'm a strong proponent of the retirement of the logo and the mascot. The mascot was eliminated in 2003. It's now a logo, but all of the students in the 70s and 60s and 50s were proud of where they were from and what they were doing. And that pride is still there. And I see that as being a part of a transition process, is to continue honoring the past while we move forward. So putting aside a lot of the bigger picture things, for me, it comes down to all of my decisions with the board are what comes back, what's best for our kids. And I will freely admit I'm not always right. But here I believe what is right for our kids on July 2nd, 2020 is to retire the mascot, retire the logo, in effort with our taxpayers to not spend additional taxpayer money, and move forward. So my vote is yes. Now, is there anything else that would like to be discussed?
Can I bring up my secondary motion now?
We can, yes. We have voted on it. The motion passes, and now we are still open to discussion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to postpone the vote until the board can have an in-person meeting with public participation and comment.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, there is no vote. But That, and Patty, I'll tell you, no, that is exactly how it's done. Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I just want to say I'm proud of this board. What Forrest said earlier, we're new. We obviously have pretty diverse opinions ourselves, and you all are professionals today.
So with that, we will, there is no executive session. Prior to the adjournment, there will be I'd like to note that after this meeting has adjourned, after the meeting has concluded, our governor at 2 o'clock did provide further guidance for reopening for Ohio schools. And Mr. Prebbles will, once our meeting is over, provide some reopening ideas as far as our district goes. So again, our next regular board meeting is on July 10th at 7 a.m. I anticipate everyone being here. It is more of a business meeting, but it will be virtual as this one has been. I thank everyone for coming. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Come on, that's the easiest motion of all.
I'll make a motion
I'll make
to
a
adjourn.
motion. I second.
Okay, Ms. Cropper?
Mrs. Barber,
Yes.
Ms. Choice,
Yes.
Dr. Rasmussen,
Yes.
Mrs. Taylor,
Yes.
Dr. Heights.
Yes. Thank you all and see you on Thursday morning, Friday morning.
For those of you who have stayed on this call or on this virtual meeting, I want to thank you for doing that. I want to let you know that on my screen at this particular point in time, there are no board members that are still a part of this virtual meeting, and that's to ensure that the sunshine laws in the state of Ohio are maintained. So with utmost respect, because the special meeting is over and my comments are informational here today for parents and community, if board members continued and they have not, they were unable to comment or to deliberate on comments that I would be making at this point. So during the last weeks of May and throughout the entire month of June, the district's administrative team, in collaboration with staff, parents, and community members, as well as health officials, created 3 school reopen options for the 2021 school year. In fact, we provided board updates during those weeks on our progress, and I reviewed each during last week's regularly scheduled meeting of the board. More than 3,000 parents, and thank you very much for participating, more than 3,000 parents responded to a June 9 survey. More than 150 staff members of the district attended design meetings on the subject, and more than 20 volunteers participated in final reviews of each of the plans that we had. Additionally, on June 22nd, I sent an email to staff and parents district-wide to inform them of the models: 1, traditional, with appropriate safety precautions; 2, a blended model with similar, more regulated safety precautions and full remote opportunities. And the highest level of planning would be a full remote. So I think I made a little mistake there. The blended model is more regulated, and then the full remote provides the highest level of safety precautions, but the least desirable teaching and learning experience for students. So considerable engagement in this process has taken place. Along the way, we have been reluctant to recommend any of them until final guidance came from the state's governor, and guidance that I might add that was to be announced on June 1st. And I spoke at our last meeting that I am not being derogatory towards the governor of the state, as I know he and his administration have spent many, many, many weeks working on this, and they've met with superintendents across the state in all of the educational affiliates. So I appreciate the fact that the governor has spent this much time on this issue. And so now here we are today on July 2nd. Governor DeWine provided guidance in what he described as a 5-point plan that offers local control flexibility. So his plan includes vigilantly assessing for symptoms. And parents and school officials, according to the governor, he highlighted the need to daily talk with children before leaving for school to find out and to assess if they are experiencing symptoms and be sure that they do not have a temperature of 100 degrees or higher. And we would be working with our local health officials to develop testing strategies. So once again, this vigilantly assessing for symptoms with our students before they leave school and ensuring that they don't have a temperature that exceeds 100 degrees. The second part of the governor's plan talks about washing and sanitizing hands to prevent the spread of COVID. And so we are required, or at least the regulations or the recommendations say that we should provide ample opportunities for students to wash hands and make sure that we have sanitizers that are abundantly available and provided to our students and staff throughout the day. So the washing of the hands and the sanitizing of hands is very important. And so there are some guidelines for us to be considering along those lines. Another guideline, the third part of the governor's 5-point plan, is to thoroughly clean and sanitize the school environment to limit the spread. And I assure you that we have already purchased many chemicals. We have purchased all sorts of sanitizers and, for surface cleaning in our schools, for door handles, fountains, handrails, etc. So we have been doing that in our schools, and we are preparing for that as we think about progressing into the 2021 school year. A big component of the governor's plan is to practice social distance. And the recommendation that's coming from the governor's office is 6 feet is recommended, and schools need to factor this into our schedules, into our transportation, into our internal student traffic patterns as they move throughout the building, in our cafeterias, in our learning commons, in our hallways, to ensure that we, to the best of our ability, can maintain a 6-foot distance for all kids. And again, this is recommended, and that, I think, brings in the 5th part of the governor's plan on this 6-foot distancing point, and that is to implement a face covering policy. The governor did not give us any leeway, so to speak, for the adults in the building, the professionals that are engaging with students. The governor specifically stated today, for safety purposes, that faculty and staff are required to wear facial coverings. He also provided recommendations based upon state and national health experts regarding student face masks or student coverings. Again, these are safety recommendations that are coming from the governor for the students, but they are not for the staff. We are to wear face coverings for the safety of not only the students, but for the staff. So the district will provide details on face mask recommendations in our update, which will be coming out next week, which will provide more specific components of these 5 points from the governor. So today, I would like to inform the board and anybody listening in that it is mine and my team's recommendation, based on all the information that we have available on July 2nd, that we reopen the 2021 school year with a full traditional model following the 5 points provided in the governor's plan. And so that's the recommendation that I will move to the Board of Education for their deliberation and their discussion. And we are hopeful to provide the plan of all of this, the more detailed plans of what that looks like in the upcoming week. So the components of our plan include CDC, Ohio governor, state, and local health official approved safety precautions for student and staff social distancing, for facial coverings, transportation services, cafeteria food preparation and distribution, as well as faculty cleaning and disinfectant practices. There's a virtual full remote learning option in this plan that I just said about the traditional return to school, that parents may choose in order to accommodate specific safety, health-related, and academic needs of all students. So if a parent is not feeling like the full traditional model will work for them, there will be a full remote option available to parents in our school district. and that would be done on a semester basis. More information on that will come to you. So the district received about $598,000 from the federal government. It's a CARE allocation to offset the increased local costs related to COVID-19. And our team has prioritized the use of those CARE dollars, or those CARE resources, to one, safe and secure operations, which goes to the PPEs, which is the personal protection equipment, cleaning and disinfectant type needs within our school district. We've also, safety is first. Next, obviously, our primary goal is the instruction of students. So instructional materials and infrastructure included that are related to the individual and specific needs of our most vulnerable students. So not only will we have instruction for all students in the traditional, but there will be allocations for students who have specific individual needs, and we can maintain a high level of quality instruction for those students. And this includes technology accessibility, equipment, and bandwidth in our school district for those students. So no one can predict the actual cost, as no one can predict how long it will take to secure a vaccination, nor what types of health-related surges may occur until then. But for now, we are prepared to move forward with a goal to avoid expenditures beyond those provided by the federal government in the CARE dollars provided to us. As I said before, more specific details regarding my proposed full traditional 2021 reopening will be shared with parents next week. Details will also be available on the district's website. I am fully aware that details are an essential component needed for parents to make decisions about their students' traditional or remote choice to return to school. Once details are provided and parent engagement followed by choices are made, I will be more prepared to discuss related and specific staffing, materials, technology, and operational costs. Lastly, I want to thank parents and students for their patience during this very difficult time. I also want to thank the district's administrative team and staff who participated in the development of the district's 3 options. I most importantly want to thank all of our parents who participated in our surveys, for our staff members who did the same, and for the small sort of ad hoc committee that reviewed, the volunteer committee that reviewed our plans. So again, it will be my proposal to the Board of Education that we return to a traditional model in the 2021 school year, and that we implement the guidelines provided by the governor. Additional details will be provided to parents next week. A remote option will be available for parents to choose from, and we would hope that we would want to require that be a semester decision because of the staffing and related costs associated with that. And I am hopeful that in between now and then, significant improvement or significant advances take place in the development of a vaccination for this. So this is an update, informational for the community. I certainly appreciate your willingness to stay on this virtual meeting with me. And again, if you have questions, concerns, comments, you can email the school. You can go to our website and provide information that way. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.